In the midst of a walkout from one of the three top talents in WWE, a returning animal, and the launching of a streaming service called the WWE Network, Daniel Bryan through all of this was the most talked about person in the wrestling world. Bryan's abilities and talent resonated with the crowd around WrestleMania 28. His rise to the top of the WWE was pretty unexpected. Personally, around the end of 2012, he was my favorite wrestler, ahead of CM Punk and John Cena, but I thought that he had already reached his ceiling. The potential was there, and it was possible for him to win the title, but nobody expected him to be as over as he was in 2014. His story of reaching the top was blurred with reality, and we've often heard, oh, WWE doesn't like smaller guys, who compared to somebody like John Cena were plain. You know, Daniel Bryan next to John Cena looks plain. He was literally an everyday man. There was nothing larger than life about his character, his persona, his size, nothing. So why would somebody like me or you like Daniel Bryan? For me, it comes down simply to his underdog nature. I've seen this guy come in, win the US title, even Money in the Bank in the world title, but he was never seen as a main eventer, and when he gets shoved off the top of the mountain, he climbs back harder and faster. Plus, this man worked on his character, promo ability, and charisma. 2010, Daniel Bryan showed some charisma, but it was his partnership with Kane that unlocked his true capabilities, at least to the WWE audience. Then to top it all off, he has the in-ring ability and catchphrase on top of that. So by the time 2013 came around, the fans were interested in Bryan. He used to come out to a mild reaction, and now they react to him. It was slowly getting louder, he's facing more notable talent on a weekly basis, and SummerSlam was his time. That summer wasn't the summer of Cena nor Punk, it was the summer of Bryan. He finally wins the title, but it's taken away from him, and at this point, it was clear what's up. And after he loses to Orton again, it was obvious that they were trying to undermine him, keep him a bit down below. Because let's be honest, they value him. They value him. You wouldn't have no random guy beat John Cena clean in the main event of SummerSlam. But they didn't value him to the point where everyone wanted him to be, and that was in the main event scene. But it was still an upper mid-carder, you know, sometimes in the main event, this and that. Royal Rumble comes around, he doesn't show up. Rey Mysterio gets the loudest boos in his career, which is pretty damn sad. The shows start getting hijacked with Daniel Bryan chants, and they force their hand. Originally, he was set to face Sheamus at WrestleMania, which is funny, but the shows being hijacked were far too much, and Batista's crowning moment, a moment he had in 2005, was not going to happen again. Bryan's storyline in the lead up to WrestleMania was superb. An underdog who the upper brass didn't see much in, having the entire crowd by his side, going through the evil COO before capturing the world title in a match with two men who had WrestleMania main event experience. The moment Bryan won the title was magical and really showed, as corny as it sounds, that anything's possible. Man beat the entire Evolution barring Ric Flair in one night. You can't look better than that. And at face value, you'd think this was a sign of a special title reign. On the April 7, 2014 episode of Raw, Daniel Bryan kicked off the show as the new WWE World Heavyweight Champion. The fans were going crazy, chanting yes almost non-stop. They chanted his name for a minute, and I just gotta say, it's like, how in the hell does nobody mention this moment in itself? Because these fans were chanting yes non-stop, going absolutely insane, and he's standing there in the middle of the ring doing nothing. Man was about to catch an injury doing this. Bryan was proud that the fans were united with one word. They chanted, "You deserve it." He's taken it all in, and he gave the fans credit for their power in helping him become the world champion. The moment Triple H interrupted, they booed like hell, and the game said that he's not entering the ring. So Bryan provoked him with the entire crowd on his side. Triple H told him to enjoy the moment because it can't and won't last. Hell, it won't last through the night, and he was going to ensure it. Why? Because Daniel Bryan was going to put his title on the line against him. He went on a tirade about how this was his show and left in anger. So Bryan did the yes thing again. The problem with this match and storyline was that Batista and Randy Orton felt more deserving. Batista complained about how he came back to win the title. Orton had his rematch clause, but Triple H, though, assured them that they have their title shots. But he's going to end this tonight. They booked a duo in a tag team title match, but that wasn't their intention. They won the world title. The game calmed them down and said that when the three of them are on the same page, nobody could stop them. Triple H realized what was in front of him, so he wanted to enlist the help of the Shield, who had their issues with authority figures. At face value, the odds were in the game's favor. He's got the Shield and an arm that's 100%. Add to that, Batista and Randy Orton. They attacked him before the match even began. Batista dropped him with a Batista bomb, and now Kane was here. He hit the choke slam, and the chances of a Triple H win are about as likely as Deji beating Mayweather. The referee rings the bell, the fans chant no, and the Shield decided to come out. This was when they were in their Ghost era with those cool ass masks. Triple H knew where this was heading, and because the other three had issues, it was gonna spill into the match. The Shield initiated the attack, and it was something else. The authority was falling apart. The Shield had all the momentum, and to top it all off, they surrounded him. Bryan dropped him with a knee, and it really felt like the beginning of a new chapter in WWE. It was one hell of an ending. For the first night, it was electric. Bryan, the Shield looked good. What more could you want? As a result of this, Stephanie McMahon lashed out on Kane, telling him he used to be a monster, but now he's a joke. This was more than enough to awaken the devil's favorite demon. The leader of the Yes Movement wasn't on Raw that night because he was getting married to Brie Bella. He did, however, return the following week, but before he could speak, Stephanie interrupted to congratulate them. Her present, though, was interesting. What was this present? It was a match against Kane at Extreme Rules for the titles. Then she suggested he get his wife out of harm's way. Why? Because Kane was here. He came in from the crowd, and Bryan did put up a fight, but he was no match on this night for the Big Red Machine. And to top it all off, he hit 2 tombstone pile drivers on the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. This left Bryan with essentially an injured neck, and this was done in reality to give Bryan some time away because his father passed away. That said, they still continue with the build. Stephanie the following week wanted him to come out so she could apologize to him. He did come out, but the reason why he came out was to basically berate her. He told her that she was full of it, and the fans are still going crazy for him. Stephanie admitted that they didn't want him to become champion and said that their emotions ran a little high. He didn't want to hear it, and her reasoning for having Kane was to give Bryan a credible opponent, and she didn't expect him to go that far. She apologized, but it did nothing. He said that he'll always see her as a liar, and he knew that Kane was going to come out. He said that he couldn't move his neck, and even though he's barely cleared, he refuses to give up. The champion promised that if Kane tried taking him down, they'll go down together. In order to get on their good side, Stephanie gave Brie Bella a title shot. It was clear that Kane was somewhere at this point because his mask was missing, some horror movie stuff. Suspicions were raised when Michael Cole asked, what did Brie Bella do to get a title shot? And there he was. Bryan was on standby. He's standing his ground, waiting for a fight when Kane emerged from under the ring. He was dragging Brie to Hornswoggle's house. Bryan's neck was hurting and he was trying, but nothing was working until he brought out a wrench. This did nothing and Kane sat up. He dropped the champion with a chokeslam and Brie managed to run away. At this point, Stephanie started crying her eyes out, and he told her that he's going to be at Extreme Rules despite this, and that she'll regret dragging his wife into this. Brie then called her a bitch. On the final SmackDown before Extreme Rules, Daniel Bryan had one last confrontation with Kane. He said that he didn't have to worry about the titles, and if anything, it's about what it'll do to Kane. He said that this match was a war to him and he promised to send him straight to hell. Kane, though, didn't see this as a bad thing. He said that when they arrived there together, he'll give him a tour. Kane said that this was only the beginning, and Bryan, in anger, removed his neck brace before Kane lit up the ring. So that's the build. Not the best, and in terms of opponents, he's not really dangerous. Daniel Bryan was away for half the build. He got married, his dad passed away, and it was just there. Kane as an opponent wasn't really threatening, but that's what they had at the time, and turning him into Super Kane, I guess, was enough. John Cena was busy with Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt was busy with John Cena. Triple H, Batista, who I personally feel should have had a match with Bryan, was busy, so that's all they had. Now, Bryan assured everyone he was going to face Kane. Stephanie, though, said that he doesn't have to compete and he should just surrender the title, so he told her to leave. He said that he's going to walk in as champion and leave as a champion. She didn't agree and said that he'll be Kane's. The champion wasted no time in going after Kane. This didn't work out, and in the beginning, it seemed like Kane had the champion down. That wasn't true, and instead the American Dragon fought like hell. At times, it really felt like he was fighting a monster, and they made their way to the back, where Kane threw a propane tank into the car window. Hell, Bryan even lifted Kane on a forklift and brought him back to the arena. At this point, the champion had the entire crowd by his side, but even with all of this, at times it was like fighting a wall because Kane dropped him with a chokeslam. He was about to hit a tombstone, but Bryan fought his way out, and all that momentum he was gaining was gone when Kane dropped him through the announce table. To top it all off, he brought out a table and gasoline. This was done all for Kane to land on the table and take a knee to retain that title. Not bad. They even teased that this wasn't finished afterwards with Kane. They had to do what they had to do, I guess. For Bryan, he looked really good coming out of it as he was up against a horror movie character who would stop at nothing to end his momentum. The next night on Raw, Stephanie suggested the champion stay in his locker room and they showed a mask. It got goofier as time went on because the room went dark and they left. Stephanie once again reminded them that Kane's around. She's like, oh, you should stay in your room, this and that. But they didn't. Brie was a bit scared. She was a bit worried. So she wanted to accommodate the two and told them that she's going to bring their car up front. Once the car arrived, she took it a step further and decided, hey, Daniel Bryan, you have a match tonight. If you don't wrestle, you're stripped of the titles. He faced Alberto Del Rio in a hard-fought battle to win the match. Right afterwards, Kane's music played. They made a run for it. The car doesn't work, and of course, there's a problem. Kane respawns, he has a little fight with the champ and some dumb stuff, and even though Kane seemed down, he sat up and they made a run for it. For Bryan, he was thankful of this opportunity. The Authority were throwing everything at his way, but with the fans' help, he beat the odds. But right after he came back from his honeymoon, he took the worst beating of his career. The champion admitted that he's going to have to get neck surgery, and he was very sad about it because he didn't want to go away. Bryan said that there's a chance that it could be the end of his career, but he assured everyone that it won't be. Now, the reasoning for Bryan's hiatus was because he had a little nerve issue in his neck. He needed surgery, and initially he was set to be away for 8 weeks. I'll get into that soon. The Authority were pressing him to drop the title because he would be unable to face Kane, and Stephanie later that night wanted him to come out and talk, but it turns out Kane attacked him and left him a beaten man. To top it all off, Bryan had to be loaded on an ambulance, all while Stephanie was trying to explain things to Brie, who decided to shove her. Now, before the injury, Bryan was initially planning to face Kane in a Buried Alive match, but with that said, the leader of the Yes Movement came out on the May 26, 2014 episode of Raw. He admitted that there was no shame in relinquishing the title because the fans deserve a champion, but he felt that Stephanie wanted to do it for herself. He said that it would negate everything he fought for. Every time the fans chanted yes in defiance of the Authority, it would be throwing it all back in their face, and he began shouting no. She knew that this was going to happen, so Stephanie made mention of when Brie shoved her 2 weeks ago. She gave him one more chance to do the right thing and said that if Bryan doesn't surrender the title at Payback, then Brie's fired. At Payback, CM Punk chants were loud and clear. Bryan was lenient and Stephanie took a jab at the Second City Saint. It was obvious that he was going to let go of the title, but he was going to give her the talk, you know? He wasn't like, oh, I don't want to lose my title, this and that. It was just, you know, he was dragging it out. Brie called her a bitch again. Yes chants intensified after that, and the segment was more about Brie and Stephanie rather than the title. But the decision Bryan was going to make did not happen because Brie quit and proceeded to slap Stephanie, and the crowd went crazy. Why? Because she got her comeuppance. Unfortunately, Bryan was stripped of the title, and Stephanie booked a Money in the Bank ladder match with the winner capturing the gold. This run was very disappointing. The thing is, when you see Bryan go through evolution, this and that, you're like, this guy's going to have one hell of a title run. He's going to go all the way through SummerSlam, beating everybody in sight, but it just wasn't that. Another thing to mention is the timing. When Bryan won the title, the Shield were busy with Triple H, Randy Orton, and Batista. And in addition, even if Orton wasn't busy, we see that match a little too much around here. So the only choice I feel would have been best for Bryan was Batista, but he was busy with the Shield. Other than that, you don't really got much. You're not going to have somebody like Cesaro as his first challenger. I don't think they would do that. Alberto Del Rio or Christian. These guys were a bit down below. You couldn't really have them challenge for the gold. You know, these type of guys that I'm talking about. Maybe if Sheamus turned heel, that could have been something, but nah. I don't think they really thought about it. The Kane feud happens. There's some bad horror movie stuff. I'm not going to lie, it's kind of entertaining. You know, I'm not going to be like, oh, this sucked, this and that. It was pretty entertaining to me. But after that, it was all about timing, and Bryan suffered an injury at the worst possible time. As I said earlier, he was going to be out for 8 weeks, which was 2 months. But then it turned out to be 8 months. And by the time he returned, a lot changed. But yeah, this run was not good at all. And even if Bryan did retain against Kane, I don't think it was going to get that much better. Because he didn't have many guys to face off against at that time. Brock Lesnar, he was going to face him at SummerSlam. So other than that, you really got much. Alright, what do you guys think of Daniel Bryan's title reign? Please comment down below. And that's it for this video. Make sure you hit the yes lock on the like button or perhaps the knee on the subscribe button. Peace. I'm out.